Hello and welcome to episode 36 of the HamCorp training manual. We are sorry to inform you that there has been a delay in what was promised last episode, because the CEO was too busy reporting record high HamCorp profits. Note that your salaries will unfortunately not be increased this year due to increased costs. The EV circuit assembler and tungstate dust will have to come in the next episode instead. In this episode, we will centralize power storage and completely switch from logistics pipes to AE2. We will also redo and expand the chemicals plant. So I'm currently expanding the chemicals plant. And this thing rolling by has reminded me to check on the wood. Because remember I said now that we're making 50% more wood tar, we're also using 50% more wood. And indeed, we are slowly running out. So I probably need to expand the farm and add another 11 by 11 of oak bonsai. And that will hopefully be able to keep up. Uh-oh. Man, I fucking hate the farm, dude. But yeah, that's something I need to do. But I want to start moving these chemicals over, so I'm going to continue expanding this first. Actually, I changed my mind. I've decided to work on the farm first, because the sooner I get these things on passive, the better. So I've started breeding some salt roots. I'm not really going for stats right now. I just want to fill a field because no matter how slow it is, it's better than having nothing. Same with the stickweed, but obviously I had already bred these up quite a bit before and these grow really fast, so this is going to be done pretty soon. And I also planted some blazereed. I've also expanded the farm to be a 16 patch farm, so it's 4x4, and I've started hooking things up to applied energistics. So I have the cable coming here all the way from the power building. This part is clearly still being renovated. I still rely on these logistics pipes. That's the only reason they're still here. But I'm slowly starting to switch everything off of logistics pipes and onto applied energistics. And of course, as usual, I've made a subnet to help me with this. I also have the EV cable coming in here into an HV transformer, directly into an MV transformer, into a battery buffer. Because I figured I don't really need that much power to run this place. This has been going perfectly fine with literally just one high-pressure solar boiler. So MV should be plenty of power. I'm still going to use these wooden fluid pipes, but instead of the railcraft tank from before, I'm just going to use a reservoir. And for storage in here, currently the drawers are next to the farms, like each respective farm. But I kind of want to have them all in one place and just have like a drawer controller with a bunch of drawers with all the different things that we can get here. I know it's better to use drives, but I want to be able to see everything. I think that would be cool. That's basically the only reason. And for that, I have crafted a drawer controller. So I'm going to start with these. One of the wood farms, the sugarcane farm, which is this one. And then I'm going to start working on the rest. I'm also going to turn this into like an actual pretty room instead of just, whatever this is. And I'm going to connect everything to the reservoir and everything to applied energistics, of course. And I will see you when that's done. So I'm just in the middle of the process of rewiring, or I guess repiping the farm. And I've just discovered line mode on the wrench. So normally when you shift right click over here, it only modifies this one pipe, but if you shift right click the air and then do it, it does everything in a line. I currently have 603 hours in this world, and I'm only now discovering this? Okay, the farm has been completely connected. I made 2 more oak bonsai patches, and I've also connected up the stickweed, the salt root, and the blazereed. Check this place out. Big difference from last time. So I can explain what I did here. This drawer setup has everything from the farm. The new things are the salty root, sticky resin, blaze powder, and blaze rods. I put a void upgrade on the blaze powder because you can always get more powder from rods. And for wiring, what I did was I have an ME cable going through here, comes up, and then branches off to different farms. And at each farm, we have a low voltage transformer to transform this MV into LV, which then powers the LV crop manager. This crop manager is being supplied with water from the central pipe that goes straight to that reservoir. And then because this thing doesn't have any auto output function, I had to add a conduit. And the conduit extracts stuff and puts it into the interface. And I did the same for all of these farms. I even hooked up the farms that don't have any crops assigned to them yet. So I made a few extra crop managers. And these ones I'm not supplying with water because I'm not sure which crops do well with hydration and which ones don't. For example, the salt root just dies if you hydrate it. So I need to be careful not to hydrate this. I don't know what happens with the blaze reed. I imagine it's fine for stickreed. So yeah, the new farm upgrade is done. And now I'm going to go back to the chemicals plant. And I'm going to get rid of everything over here so I can get rid of even more logistics pipes. And there you go. That's our final farm setup. Oh, that was about 12 to 13 hours of work, all reduced to a single cut. But okay, I have redone the entirety of the chemicals building, cleaned it up, made it a lot less congested. So let me show you what I have, starting with the old building. So these things here, you've seen before. This is the radon loop, silicone rubber, styrene butadiene rubber, and lubricant. Here I've got one chem reactor purely for polymerization. So it makes polyethylene, polyvinyl chloride, and polytetrafluoroethylene. We can do this all in one LCR because luckily the polymerization step for all three of these chemicals uses the same program circuit. And all three of them have the same recipe, it's just the unpolymerized version plus oxygen makes the polymerized version. So here I supply ethylene from elsewhere. We get ethylene from distillation in the oil building, so I no longer create ethylene. Here is vinyl chloride, and here is tetrafluoroethylene. We don't have any right now, but this is the input hatch where it will go. And then it comes out through 3 output hatches on the bottom here, directly into fluid solidifiers, which solidify it into bars. And at the top, there's an HV hatch with oxygen in it. These 2 chem reactors make vinyl chloride and tetrafluoroethylene. This one makes some extra hydrochloric acid, so that goes into the super tank with overflow voiding. And then the main outputs get sent through this ender conduit. I've used channels so that they don't get sent to the wrong input hatches. So yeah, so these are the 3 old plastics, and now we store them as bars. So that's the old building. Now this new wing, this took some time to fill because I upgraded all the machines to at least HV. Also, I got rid of the ender pearl setup because that was just too expensive. Also, we ran out of ender pearls because, or not out entirely, but we're quite low on ender pearls because the enderman died or despawned or something. But now we just make nitrogen from air. So there's a loop with a compressor making compressed air, which we centrifuge to get nitrogen. It also makes oxygen as a byproduct, so it's stored here with overflow voiding. Here we have the TNT line, exactly the same as before, nothing new, just upgraded to HV. Here we've got the glowstone to redstone and gold line. To save on a channel, I used the drawer controller for these 2 drawers instead of one each. I had to add a second battery buffer here because some of these recipes need 480 EU per tick, but with the length of the cable from the old buffer over there, we actually did not get that here. So I had to make a second buffer to kind of renew the current, I guess. And now the recipes run fine without failing. Here we've got sodium persulfate. I decided not to go for super tank because 4 million is a lot. I separated it from the sulfuric acid, so that's just supplied directly through applied energistics from elsewhere. We're currently out of sodium, which is why it's not doing anything. But yeah, pretty straightforward, same as before. This one is for sulfuric acid. This one I've changed the recipe. So instead of doing sulfur dioxide and sulfur trioxide, I use the hydrogen sulfide that we get from desulfurizing in the oil refinery. That just gets combined with oxygen and we get sulfuric acid. The only problem with that is if for some reason we stop producing hydrogen sulfide, we will also stop producing sulfuric acid. So I decided to make a super tank with a giant backlog to mitigate that as much as possible. Next one is iron 3 chloride. I put it in an LCR just so it runs faster. Next to that we have a new line that I should have made a long time ago, hydrochloric acid. Currently out because it's used like everywhere, but this just combines hydrogen and chlorine. And we do it in an LCR because there's a nice recipe that requires an LCR. It's this one. Uses 9 buckets of each to make 9 buckets of hydrochloric, and it's really fast, 7 ticks. We'll address the chlorine issue soon. This is the oxygen line, same as before, just making sugar from sugarcane. Next is the silicon solo grade poly-Si, same as before. Then we have hydrofluoric acid, which so far I had been making by hand, but now I made an LCR recipe. Similar to the hydrochloric acid, there's a fast version that needs an LCR. For this, I decided to go for a regular fluid tank because I don't use hydrofluoric acid as much. And then finally, this is something else that's new. I added salty root processing. So this is just a chemical bath with water, and it gives you a chance for salt, rock salt, and saltpeter. I've decided to not void the salt, but I will void overflow rock salt and saltpeter. Mostly because the sodium from salt is also very useful, more useful than the potassium from rock salt. So I decided this is the one that I need to keep the most, that I don't want to void. And also I used the drawer controller again to save on channels. And all of these used exactly 32 channels. So this dense cable that goes all the way back to the controller face is completely full. And I don't know, I think that's very satisfying. As for power, this is surprisingly stable. I did need to add a few more turbo combustion gens, and I made another 4 just in case the power draw goes up. Also, we no longer use this wood gas, so this pyrolyzed oven is kind of useless, and I can repurpose it for something else. So, there you go. Chem lab has been completely de-logistics pipified. Next, I want to connect the ore processing and completely clean up that part as well. I noticed that I'm very low on titanium. And also I have this reminder, basically, on this quest tab to put this ilmenite processing up. I have everything in this chest, I just haven't set it up. So I'm going to do that and use that as an excuse to also clean up this place. It's already quite clean. This needs to be hooked up to the power grid, and I think that's it actually. So yeah, this should be pretty quick. Okay, that was done. I also set up the ilmenite processing here. It's not too crazy. It's mostly just crushing, bathing, electrolyzing the vitriol solution back into sulfuric acid, and then centrifuging the slag. And then everything else we just send to an interface, and there's also an oxygen cell involved, so that goes to the super tank. Pretty simple compared to, you know, all of this. And I've also connected everything to the wires. The ore refinery is now connected as well. There's just a few more buildings to connect. I'm going to skip the Wizard's Tower and the launch pad because we don't have anything there. The Wizard's Tower I'll connect soon once we have the arcane part of AE2. So I still need to connect the oil refinery, power building, blasting hall, autocrafting unit, and the base of Ham Tower itself. But there's not really anything here that's going to stay here, so the quickest ones to connect are going to be the autocrafting unit and the blasting hall. So I'm just going to get those two done really quick. This one is just a matter of connecting the cable to the battery buffer, and the blasting hall is pretty much the same thing. This one is done. Okay, the blasting hall is a little more complicated, only because of this quad EV blast furnace that we have. I'm gonna leave this quad as it is, and think about it some more, but everything else I'm just going to connect to a wire. Blasting hall has been redone as well. Okay, this place is very spaghetti, but actually the AE2 hooking up was not that hard. I just replaced all of the logistics pipes with applied energistics equivalents, and yeah, that's it. I've decided I'm not going to wire this up with cables. I'm just going to leave it with this setup with the benzene, because the benzene also needs to be sent to the drill on the other side of the world. So this is fine. I'll just leave this as it is. Maybe one day I'll come back and decide to switch it, but for right now this is fine. But I also looked at the power building and I removed all of the logistics pipe stuff. I also took apart this pyrolyze oven because it wasn't doing anything. But yeah, everything else in this room has been AE2ified. Everything pretty much everywhere else has also been AE2ified. We can double check by just doing a run through the maintenance tunnels and making sure there are no logistics pipes anywhere. Just to double check, this can see absolutely nothing. That's good. Cool. Looks like it's time to rip these things up. $831 unrouted pipes. Holy shit. Only 34 basic pipes. That's kind of crazy. Oh, nice. Now we are 100% on applied energistics. Good. Very good. That feels good. Thank you for watching this episode of the HamCorp Training Manual. In the next episode, we will craft the EV circuit assembler and continue progressing towards our current goal of constructing the first combustion engine multiblock. If you would like to voice your criticism of how I promised one thing for this episode and delivered another, please join our Discord server, where you can shout at me all day. After all, part of a CEO's job is to suffer while the workers enjoy themselves on company time. See you next time.